Jay and I are passionate about changing the way that work gets done within marketing. And we work for IBM iX, and we're going to bring this story to life to you through three personas. So I'd love to introduce you to Tom, a designer, Sarah, who's a marketing lead, and Molly, who's the CEO of a company. And Tom's really, really super frustrated because he's a designer and he loves being creative, but he finds that he spends up so much of his time doing non-design, non-creative things, filling in timesheets, updating status reports, creating estimates in terms of the work that he needs to do. So Tom is pretty miserable. You know what? Sarah, she's not much happier either because she's a marketing lead, recently been promoted into a management position. She's been given some really bold business goals that she needs to achieve. But she feels like she's blindfolded because she's got no transparency in terms of, are her team working on the right work in order to achieve the right strategy? So really tricky for Sarah as well. And lastly, Molly. So she's the CEO of the company. She's balancing lots of different business units, not just marketing, but across finance, IT, HR, and others. She feels like she's trying to manage this Rubik's Cube of different dimensions and getting them all aligned. But it's super hard because everyone's working in their own business units in a very siloed way with different systems and processes and organizational structures in terms of how they get work done. So all of our characters are pretty frustrated at the moment. Tom's unhappy. He's dissatisfied. He's thinking, actually, am I in the right company? Should I leave to go to some funky startup where I can spend more time doing what I love? Sarah's feels that, incredibly frustrated. She was brilliant at doing her job within marketing. She's now a marketing lead, but she can't drive the business like she wants to. And Molly feels disconnected from her teams and the work that's getting done and feels unempowered to make the right decisions. So there is a better way.
And for us, this is where enterprise work management comes into it. And I think from a personal level, we can all relate to that feeling of frustration where you have these disparate tools, you have these disparate systems, you have different ways of working. Somebody's in the office, somebody's at home, somebody's traveling. And what we want to pull together is a better way to connect those people, the processes, the tools, the methods to make things simpler and easier for the individual doing the work, but much more transparent and visible for the enterprise that they can see how that work is being done. Now, the critical difference here is we're not talking about task management. Jira is a great example. We're not talking about project management. Microsoft Project would be a fantastic example of that. We're talking about a platform that connects end-to-end processes, that breaks down the silos across all organizations, that gives ultimate visibility, data and analytics and insights to empower everybody across the end of that process. And I heard it spoken about earlier. It puts those hard metrics in the hands of those people that can make really effective decision makers. You can see where those campaign assets are having impact, how, what it's costing, the revenue it's generating, etc. So enterprise work management just turns the volume up on effectiveness of end-to-end process transformation.
And by using enterprise work management, actually Tom can spend more time doing what he loves, doing designs, being creative. Also, the old adage, when JFK walked around NASA and asked the janitor, what's he doing? And he said, I'm helping put a man on the moon. Through effective enterprise work management transformation, that's exactly what can be achieved for all the employees that you have within marketing and beyond. So they've got absolute clarity how they're contributing to the overall strategy of your organization. For Sarah, now that she's got dashboards where she can very easily break down all of the different strategies that the organization has, linked back to the work that needs to be done, linked back to people and the tasks that need to be done, she's got transparency and she's able to make decisions based on insights rather than hindsight. And for Molly, with her Rubik's Cube, she can align all of the different colors super easily because she's able to get work not just within a single business unit aligned, but the entire enterprise. And that makes sure that she can have the business impact that's needed, but also make sure that her employees are super happy and concentrating their energies on what they love and actually having an impact to the customers that they have. So to do this requires a number of different ingredients, and you'll see a theme here. You need a purpose, process, platform, people, and the right partner to do it with. So we thought, why don't we actually bring this to life for you through one of my passions in terms of making cocktails as well, in terms of all of the ingredients that you need to deploy enterprise work management at your organization. And the first thing when you're making a cocktail is, well, you need the specialist, the mixologist, someone that's been there, done that, and created incredible cocktails previously. And that's exactly the same when it comes to enterprise work management as well.
By the theme is not that we are highly functional alcoholics, albeit you might think that by the end of this presentation. So I want to actually tell this story from the perspective of a customer that I work with at the moment. They're a multinational, very large organization, consumer goods organization based out of Switzerland in EMEA. And for them, what they exactly as we've described, they had a central marketing function, distributed regional experts. There's some legislation that's applicable to them that means that they need to decentralize some of that marketing function, but they need to do more with less in the way, the economic pressures and being able to target and greater returns in terms of their marketing campaigns. So for them, in the context of their mixologists, they looked to Adobe and IBM to really be able to bring that to life for them. And there was a few reasons for that. The first one is global footprint. They're a global organization, and they wanted enterprise-grade expertise and technology that maps to where their footprint is to enable to deliver those results. And this is shameful plugging of what we're very, very proud of. Very skilled resources and expertise in a technology product that we'll talk about in just one moment. But really, it's finding that partner that can meet you where you are and deliver those results and services in the way that you need them to. For this client, it happened to be IBM and Adobe.
So you've got the right mixologist. Next, you need the right shaker, the right jigger, the tools that you need in order to make your cocktail. And that's, again, the same with enterprise work management.
And there are plenty of products out there, actually, that go some way to providing service and capability around work management. We've actually decided to align ourselves to Adobe Workfront very specifically because of the way it connects to the marketing ecosystem. Adobe's got massive brand permission here. I mean, everybody surely has got Adobe in their tech stacks, right? So it makes sense for us to work with something like Workfront, acquired by Adobe a year or two ago for a gazillion dollars, but actually has real great enterprise credibility and connects natively with lots of those technology products that you're already working with day in and day out.
And in addition to the right tool, you can't just, start making a cocktail and pouring different drinks together. You need to know, right, what cocktail am I going to make? And that's the same.
Yeah, and great. I was listening to the panel earlier, and there were some fantastic comments were made about, do the research. What have you got in your tech stack right now? What are the tools at your disposal? Because typically you're underutilizing them. And this is so, so true. Where we like to start and help our clients is to really kind of understand, well, where actually do you want to go? What's the destination? What are we trying to achieve? So in order to set and rally around, motivate around, what's the business impact we're trying to achieve? And then all of a sudden you can start prioritizing how that you bring your technology to life, bring your culture to life in order to achieve those things. Really important.
And to give you some examples of the business impact that we've helped organizations to create, to start with, we've applied enterprise work management to IBM as well. We started in marketing with very specific use cases, which was we've got a lot of content that we put out to our channels globally through websites, mobile apps around the world that need to be translated into 8 different languages. So we connected Workfront, as Jay described, with Adobe Experience Manager, the tool that we use for our content management systems, our websites, our mobile apps, with an external translator. And by doing that, we were able to increase the speed of translation by over 55%, whilst also improving the quality of translation by over 28%, because we had a joined up process and we're using this connectedness of the people with the work that needed to be done to be able to do things faster and better. In addition, I gave the example earlier in terms of Tom, the creator. Another one of our clients is actually Mattel, the toy company. And we worked with all of their creative teams actually to start using Workfront. And that actually freed up 5 hours per week for each of their creatives. So you can imagine, what additional work can get done, but how much happier those creatives were as well. How many more cocktails they can drink. In addition, we then expanded it beyond just marketing within Mattel into product development and also other areas, even non-marketing related, like IT and HR. And suddenly that, when I described Molly earlier, it gives that visibility, transparency, and the opportunity to work across departments much, much simpler. So back to cocktails. So you've decided what drink you're going to have. You then need to actually make sure you prepare your ingredients, slice your lemons, get your drinks ready.
And I don't think we can really underestimate how important this step in the process is. So for this EMEA consumer goods company, they're trying to re-engineer and drive efficiencies across a distributed global organization. And it can be very tempting to take a tool and implement the tool and replicate what's gone before. But actually, by making that assumption, you can build inefficiency into the platform and defeat the whole point of the process in the first place. So it's really worthwhile actually spending some time understanding what you're trying to achieve and how it's done today. What is that baseline process? What does it look like? Speak to the people that are doing that work. Where's the friction? What frustrations have they got? How do they hand off to the next person in the process? What challenges do they have? What happens when it goes wrong? How much time is taken to manage that through? Once you get that really big picture of what that process is, and typically start talking to other people in adjacency departments that have some kind of input, you can start seeing ways in which you can improve the process before you've even got anywhere near the technology. So let's design and re-engineer that process and then configure the efficient process into the tool. And to use a British term that we like, if you put shit in, you get shit out. And this is the way of driving those efficiencies from the get-go.
Next, you need to choose a large pour of your base drink.
And again, it was fantastic listening to the panelists earlier on. I think in the current climate in particular, where there are so many pressures on everybody to be doing more with less, it's very difficult to be asking for new investment, for new tools. So how do you have that business case conversation? And it's with those hard metrics, those financial metrics. And so there's two parts to this that we would make a recommendation. The first one is, set the benchmark. What happens today? What's important in terms of efficiency gains? Is it the velocity of campaign creation? Is it the number of steps? Is it the speed from initiation to production? You tell me. But once you've started that benchmarking and understand where you are today, you can calculate in real time the efficiencies and put dollar value to that. And all of a sudden, that investment conversation becomes, actually, look, we prove the efficiency. Here it is. This is a valuable financial investment to reduce costs and drive efficiencies. Start with your baseline, create the benchmark, identify those very specific KPIs that are important to you, and model the process on that.
And what we found is that not just by using Workfront, but connecting it into other tools gives you exponential benefits. So one of the things that we've done is integrate Workfront with Celonis. For those of you that aren't familiar with Celonis, it's a data process mining piece of software. And what that enables is that you can test before you've re-engineered a process and applied Workfront to see exactly the KPIs, the numbers for each step in the process, where the bottlenecks are, and then apply it again after you've reimagined your processes and applied Workfront. So you can very easily see the business benefits that you've achieved, where there are still challenges that you need to overcome. And this is really helpful in terms of demonstrating the power of what Workfront can bring. Because I think, a couple of things. One, if you talk to employees, they'll be like, oh God, not another tool that I need to use, not another thing that I need to input more data to. And therefore, you need to be able to sell to them why it's going to make their lives easier. And you can do that by integrating with other tools as well to reduce data entry. And then, I can imagine also if you go and speak to your CFO at the moment, they'll say, we're in a global recession, inflationary environment, we don't want to spend money on any more tools. Again, by using the example that I said in terms of Celonis plus Workfront, you can demonstrate the business value that it's going to achieve for your organization to get support from stakeholders like that. So you've got your base drink. always nice to add something a little bit spicy to make it different.
And we're a technology company, so of course we're going to throw AI and automation into this. We'd be stupid not to. But I think there's a real story to tell here. In addition to you kind of the baseline tool, you can drive automation and AI into the process in order to unlock further efficiencies. For example, in fact, actually, Justin, you start with the engagement example.
Sure. So one of the ways that we're using AI is actually to apply it on top of Workfront to create a virtual agent chat feature. So imagine as a project manager, you want to know how many of your projects are currently delayed and some of the key reasons why. Instead of having to go into Workfront and actually do that manually, we've applied this virtual agent that you can just talk in natural language to say, I want to know which projects are currently behind, what are the main delay reasons, and that report will be produced automatically. Again, speeding up the way people work and enabling the project manager to spend more time thinking, right, what am I going to do to get those projects back on track, rather than we've all been there spending hours and hours trying to get the right data, producing the pretty report that we then show management.
And taking that to another level, we did some fantastic data analysis on using natural language process analysis of the comments people write against projects and those projects that perhaps are a little delayed. And one of the common denominators is it's all on time is a really great flag that it's not all on time. So there's actually some machine learning and AI you can apply to predict potential challenges with projects, identify it before it becomes a problem, and then turn the volume up a little bit more, provide some proactive recommendations on how to avoid delays in those projects based upon the data analysis that's gone before it. So really, world is your oyster.
And how are you going to finish the cocktail off? Well, hey, whether it's a cherry or a little umbrella, you need something to garnish it as well.
It's always an umbrella for me. So dashboarding, it's not sexy, right? But it's super important. It's super important. And the beauty with something like a Workfront tool is, yes, there's lots of out-of-the-box functionality, but it's tremendously configurable. And these dashboards are configured very specifically to the metrics that you as a manager or overseer of process need to get data out of that. So as with the configuration process up front, you design them with the user in mind. What do you need to see and why? What's important and in what format? What steering committee and meetings are you going to that you need to automate these reports to be able to showcase value? And it comes in real time via a configurable dashboard. It's super powerful.
And last time, having a cocktail on your own is pretty dull. And the real enjoyment is actually when it's with other people, you've got the party going.
And also an indication of a problem, but there we go, that's a different topic. So for us, I think there's a bunch of levels for this. The first one is the recommendation is to put your users, your marketeers, your creatives at the heart of the process. This doesn't need to be a monolithic implementation. I know we're IBM, and I know we come with massive great checks and all of your years of life in order for us to implement platforms. That's not true, by the way. That was the 1990s. Actually, you can start super small, pick a small team and put them in the heart of with the power of what's going to happen in their fingertips. They become the ambassadors. They start collaborating with their teams. And this has a knock-on butterfly effect within the organization. Once you're delivering value, you can show and prove that value, then very naturally, everybody wants in on the action. And very quickly, and this is what we see with this consumer goods company, we are now breaking down the silos of that organization, and they are looking at the way in which they stand up their leadership. How are their budgets approved? Because actually it doesn't line up with the modern way of working where we connect marketing and service. Those budgets need to come together. So it forces collaboration in a really exciting way, very, very innovative for the modern marketeer and digital organization.
Jay and I have really enjoyed sharing our stories in terms of how to make work easier and leaving more time to play. After we've been entertained by Chad for 45 minutes, we'd love to join you at the cocktail happy hour, where we're very happy to talk about either cocktails or enterprise work management transformation or anything in between. But before we conclude, I think we've got a couple of minutes. If there are any questions now, we'd love to take them. Maybe everyone just wants to rush to the cocktails, so don't let us. Anyone? I think we're good then.
Cool.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Thank you so much.